Hello, all my Broadway babies, and welcome back to another video. Today, we are going to be going over the Rusicals from Drag Race US, and we're going to be ranking them in a little bit of a ranking system tier list thing. You know how ranking things works. This isn't a new concept. I thought this video would be fun to do considering that the Rusical for season 16 of RuPaul Drag Race, just one RuPaul. I mean, technically there is just one, but it isn't hers. It's just the RuPaul Drag Race now. The Rusical for season 16 is happening next Friday. And I love the Rusical Challenge. This is one of my favorite challenges of RuPaul's Drag Race, bar none. It is always so fun and interesting. So I thought it'd be fun to rank the Rusicals here. I decided for this tier list to just do the US seasons because if I included all the internationals, it's like 20 some Rusicals. I think it's like 20 or 21, and that felt like a bit too much for one video for me, because like, let's just assume I'm gonna go and spend at least 2 to 3 minutes talking about each of the Rusicals. Then we're approaching like an hour territory, and I did not want to do that. There have been 12 Rusicals in Drag Race US, and I was like, okay, that's a bit more of an approachable idea, so we're going to do that instead. If you'd like to see me talk about the Rusicals from international seasons, though, please leave that down in the comments below, because I would be willing to do it. But yeah, we're just going to be ranking them based on how much I like them, and my criteria for what makes a good Rusical is I want a good storyline, and I want good songs, and I want the parts to be equitable. And by that, I mean, I don't really like it when a Rusical has a few standout roles that, like, were obviously made to win, and then a bunch of roles where it's like, if you get that role, you're screwed out of a win and are, like, safe at best, you know? So I'm really looking for stellar songs, stellar storylines, and, you know, really equitable distribution of parts in determining my favorites and my least favorites. It's not a, like, complete science. I didn't, like grade them or anything. This just is just kind of, like, the vibes of it for me. Oh, and before we get into it, the Vegas Live Challenge from season 12 of RuPaul's Drag Race, you know, the one they did the Final Five where Gigi Good won, that is going to be included in here because it is technically a Rusical. It is a bit of a weird challenge to kind of determine exactly what you should call it, because it's not like it was made for the show. It was essentially a promotion for Drag Race Live in Vegas, and they were, you know, kind of like writing their own verses to it. So you could kind of in a way call it like a girl group challenge if you wanted, but it does function more as Rusical considering that it is based off of a live stage show, that being RuPaul's Drag Race Live. So it is included in this video. Oh, and also shout out to the Drag Race Wiki, because they are where I got basically every single title card for these Rusicals here that I am using to talk about them with. And last but not least, please like, comment, and subscribe on this video if you enjoy it. Only about 25% of my viewers are currently subscribed, so if you were to subscribe to my channel, that would be so lovely, be so greatly appreciated. Anyways, let us get into the video. Starting off at number 12, I feel like there's really only one Rusical that deserves the bottom placement. I could see a couple of other Rusicals being argued as the worst, but for me, far and away the worst Rusical is the Pharma Rusical. Okay, so the Pharma Rusical Season 10, Episode 2, they do a Rusical about fake ads for pharmaceutical companies? There's no storyline, not a shred of one, like literally nothing. It's truly just like cheeky little fake ad spots that are meant to like make you laugh. And it's like, okay, what is the point of this? Who was high when they wrote this? No, high's not right. Who was who was on acid when they wrote this challenge? Because it just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't. It's like I don't even know how to like describe it. There's no storyline. The songs don't make sense. And sure, the parts are pretty equitable, I would say, but nobody really gets to talk that much overall. And also, the challenge is split into teams for some reason and is judged in the teams. And I'm like, why do you need teams for pharmaceutical ads? What do you mean? It doesn't make any sense to me as a Rusical or as a Drag Race challenge. It really is probably one of my least favorite Drag Race challenges to watch, period. It is not good. And I don't mean to be too negative, because I do love the vast majority of the Rusicals. We really only have to get through one more Rusical I don't like until we get to the rest of them, which I do like. But this Rusical is just not it. Next up we have what might be more iconically known as a bad Rusical. It's not as bad as the Pharmarusical in my opinion, but I think it is definitely more talked about as being like a sore spot for Rusicals, and that is Social Media, the Unverified Rusical. This Rusical is just too contrived. It's like, okay, I understand like delving into the history of social media. If it was just truly the history of social media, like as a Rusical, and they framed it more like that way, then sure. But they really didn't. Like, that's kind of the premise, because, like, Olivia Lux plays, like, Mark Zuckerberg, and Rosé plays, I don't even remember the name of the character that she's playing, but she's kind of like, no, you can't do this with social media, no, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's kind of what they went for, but they didn't really commit to the bit. If they had committed to that so much harder, instead of like having this like faux narrator like taking you through the journey like situation, and like the Russian bots of Gottmik and Denali, if they really leaned into like, you know, the timeline kind of musicals that we get with like the Cher and Madonna musical, like a true journey through time, I think that could have been better, but it just felt like it never committed to any idea fully, and it was hurt by that, for sure. And it's also just not super, like, if you make, like, a social media musical, it's so hard for it not to come across as, we're writers who are, like, Gen X or older. We can use Facebook. We don't know how to use TikTok. We don't know how to use Instagram. Like, it just, like, no matter how you frame it, it's gonna come across as out of touch in some way. And so while I do think there are ways they absolutely could have made it better based off of the concept, I do think generally the concept is flawed to begin with by doing a social media musical. You know what I mean? The next musical also falls into the critique of it being a bit too contrived for its own good. But this musical is definitely held up by the fact that basically everybody besides the bottom three do a really good job in it, and the fact that it is parodying another musical which helps kind of ground it. And that is Trump the Rusical. So they, for some reason, decided to combine like Trump and all of the women in his political life with Greece and make that a Rusical. And that concept was just never really gonna work fully, in my opinion. Like, it just, how do you, I don't know a universe where that concept does work well, really. But I do think what we got with it is about as good as we could have gotten. I mean, truly, so many people do a great job in this musical. I mean, Silky does great. Evie, Brooklyn, Suga, Nina, Akira. Like, so many people do an amazing job in this musical. Scarlet Envy. So many great performances in this musical. and they really kind of lift this up. And also the little cameos and stuff. I mean, Ginger Minj plays Trump. That's just so stupid and fun. And I think this one could have had the flaw of it, you know, being about like politics and stuff, of it coming across as like too generic or out of touch. But I don't feel like it falls into those traps that badly. Like, yes, it is very surface level, but it's also like 10 minutes long, so it can't get in there really. And it makes fun of people in the right ways and points out the ridiculousness of, well, the Republican Party just as a concept, but specifically the people that they're making fun of in the Rusical in a pretty good way, I would say. Like, I really, besides the fact of the concept being, I think, too much to chalk in there from the start, I think they do a pretty damn good job with it overall. Next up, we have a Rusical that's not really a Rusical, but it is a Rusical. And that is the Las Vegas Live Challenge. Now, I don't know where to really fairly rank this. Because, like, yes, it is a Rusical, but also it really functions as an advertisement. So it's like, how do you grade it in a way that feels fair? But I do think the storyline is there. I do think the parts are there. I do think they're pretty spread out evenly. And I do think that the songs are pretty good. It's just, it doesn't function right. It's just a confusing thing to rank because I don't really think of it when I think of the Rusicals. And they also have to write their own lyrics to parts of it, which you never do in a Rusical. So it's like, I just don't know of a way to fairly rank it. So I kind of decided to rank it as like a neutral option here. Whereas like the first three that we talked about, well, I do like the Trump Rusical overall. I'm still like overall neutral on it, so to say, in looking at like the sliding scale of all of these together. And so I decided to rank this one in kind of the middle position in my mind. Overall, I do like it, and it doesn't really have many flaws. It just doesn't really stand out to me. So, because I have nothing to fault it for except it not standing out really, I felt it most fair to rank it in between the three that I have like a genuine problem with, and then the rest of them that I feel like are like more exciting or more dynamic, or that I think about more than the Las Vegas Live Challenge. So that's why it's here in this spot. But this could change depending on the day. And a lot of these ones in the middle could change depending on the day. This like 9th through 6th kind of slush here could really change depending on just what mood I'm in. Okay, next up in 8th place here. This is gonna be the most controversial opinion of this video, and I'm willing and prepared for people to come for me for it, but I don't care. Here we have Shade, the Rusical. Now, people act like this challenge is stunning, stellar, amazing, this Rusical. And I do think this is a good Rusical overall, but I do have genuine problems with it. I do think it suffers due to the fact that it is the first Rusical that was ever done on Drag Race. And the formula for Rusicals and what they could be wasn't really established at this point. I do think there is a solid storyline with this Rusical. I do think the storyline checks and fills out. I think the songs overall are good. The big downfall this Rusical has for me is that the parts are not equitable in any sense of the word. Truly, I think it is the worst Rusical in doling out parts that matter and have good lines and that can be funny and can win the challenge. Like, it just does not do a good job at it at all. There are some contestants that get like a couple of lines, and we don't even get introduced to them. That whole group of, I believe it's April, Jocelyn, and Laganja, I could be wrong, they just get nothing in this musical. And even the parts that I believe Bianca, Trinity, Darian, and Gia had, they barely get any more than them. Like, it truly is a musical that is made for like 4 of the parts and could be done with half of the parts if they wanted it to be. And I feel like the characters, specifically in the musical, just are not fleshed out in the slightest, besides like Dela's, Courtney, and Adore's, who are technically the same character, but you know, whatever. And Milk's. Like, those are really the only 4 that are fleshed out in like any way. And some of the characters, like April Carrion, is supposed to play a quote-unquote big girl in the musical because they're playing like stereotypes of like drag queens, essentially. But what the fuck? How is she supposed to represent a big girl besides like putting on a fat suit? Like, literally. Like, some people get the role of being a comedy queen. You know, they can make comedic faces and comedic expressions. Like, somebody gets the role of being pageanty. They can make, like, pageanty expressions and do the ahs and oohs. You can't act out being a big girl. Like, that you just can't. That's not a thing. It just feels very unfair. And I just can't watch the musical without feeling like a lot of the parts don't make sense, and over half the people don't even stand a chance of winning. It's just not... It doesn't sit right in my spirit. Next up, 7th place, fittingly, very fittingly, 7th place, is the musical from Season 7, Glamazonian Airways. This musical doesn't really have a storyline other than the fact that they're like, I guess, doing like a flight safety training video. Like, that's really the start and end of it. But it is okay without it generally. That's really its biggest flaw. The parts are pretty even. Basically, everybody gets their own kind of song moment to shine, or they're paired up with like one other person to do it. And because of the way that they are like staged and the songs are, it feels manageable. And I feel like the songs are pretty funny. Like, the one song that, like, Max has to do, that one section where it's like, and the oxygen masks come down. Like, that part, literally, that little, like, snippet will just, like, play in a loop in my head sometimes. There are parts of the fucking musical that are addicting to just, like, listen to. It's a pretty good soundtrack, the whole little thing there. So I really do like it. Next up, we are officially in the top half of musicals, and from this point onwards, I think every musical that we're going to be talking about is spectacular. Just want to make that clear off the top, because I feel like I've been slightly too negative with my words so far, and I don't want to be too negative, because I know I can be too negative sometimes. I just want to make it clear that I love all these musicals despite what I'm about to say about them. But in 6th place, we have Bitch Perfect. This came out at really the perfect time to be parodying Pitch Perfect, which is, you know, it's not really a musical, so to say, because, well, I guess it technically is a musical because they're singing and it's like a movie and all that stuff, but it's a musical that is set and makes sense of the, like, the context of the world. You know, it's like Chicago. Like, Chicago, they're performers, so, like, they're performing in the musical. Pitch Perfect, they're a cappella groups. So, like, obviously they're doing a cappella performances. And I think the fact that it's, like, supposed to be a cappella really adds a fun and interesting aspect to this. And the fact that people are acting like they're doing a cappella. And it creates a fun and different acting scenario that they have to go through, which is very interesting. And the storyline is very simple, but it's okay that it's very simple. It's literally their two rival a cappella groups having what they called in Pitch Perfect a riff off, I believe. Um, and that's really all it is, and that's really all you need. And the category is RuPaul songs. And so they're just doing the RuPaul songs. It really is very concise and clear in a more like understandable and succinct way than like Glamazonian Airways was. I feel like it kind of like fits that small and just like simple brief, but it has enough context surrounding it that it makes more sense and like feels better. And all the parts are equitable. Everybody has like a moment that is their moment to be like the lead singer of like the song, so to say. And it just is a really good Rusical. It's really great. I think the only reason it's not higher is due to the fact that, weirdly enough, they are RuPaul songs. I feel like if there were songs like made for this thing, which doesn't really kind of fit into the acapella scenario, but like if the songs weren't just like RuPaul songs, if they were like, maybe different other songs from like different artists or like made up songs and scenarios for it, I think it would be more dynamic and more interesting. But the RuPaul songs still serve it very well and fit the whole vibe that I think it's going for. But I think that's really the only reason why it isn't higher than it is. But again, this musical is stellar. Up next we have, I think, the musical that people would be surprised to see is this high, but I'm ready to defend myself. I'm ready to speak my truth. Here we have at number 5, the Kardashian musical. Now, this musical is so stupid, and that's why I like it. If you've seen my videos before, if you've seen enough of them, you know that if something is dumb, it gets points for me. I love it. I love when things are stupid. And this musical's stupid. And I mean that in a fully positive way. Like, the musical is essentially chronicling the lives of the Kardashians and their rise to fame and what it might look like in the future for them. And I feel like, well, this musical is on the lower end in terms of how equal the parts are for it. I do still think that everybody has like a solid spot to like show themselves off at. And there are a couple parts that are definitely more made to win, like, the Kris Jenner part and the Blac Chyna part and the Kim K part. But I really do think that any part in this musical done well enough could win the musical. Like, there are some of the parts in Shade the Musical that I really don't think could win in any scenario. I think pretty much every single part in the Kardashian musical could win if given the right scenario with which to win. And I really like the musicals that follow, like, the lifetime and experiences of a person or people. And I think the Kardashian musical is like the first one to like really go and do it like this in a way. I really like the songs, and I think the narrative works pretty well overall. And there are just so many iconic like moments and like characters done in this musical. I mean, fucking Shea Coulee as Blac Chyna is amazing. Fucking Alexis Michelle as Kris Jenner. Peppermint as Britney Spears, Sasha Velour as Lindsay Lohan. I could go on. I think this musical is just fucking great. It really sets the bar for what musicals coming after it I feel like are gonna be in terms of like what they are, in terms of like their literal narrative of like what they are going to be about and how they are going to be like presented and like structured. And I feel like this is kind of the turning point for musicals, from being like, a small narrative and like a little like scenario to like bigger ones and like big stuff. And I feel like it's influential in that way, because after this we get, like Lifetimes, you get the Cher musical. We get these bigger stories. You get ones directly related to the musicals and like basing them off of them, like Wig Loose and stuff like that, All that really comes after the Kardashian musicals, like the first one to kind of like do it like that, and I feel like that's important. Alrighty, at number 4, we are at the like top tier of musicals. I think I said that at the top 5, but like this is the 4. Like this is the 4 that I could watch at any point of time during the day where I'm just like, I want to watch this, and then I watch it because it's so fucking good. At number 4, we have Cher, the unauthorized musical, Wagon Wheel on Tootsie. I don't know why the fuck I did that. But anyways, the Cher musical is truly spectacular. I love a musical that goes through like the lifetime or like the career of an artist. It's always fun to me when that is the case. And I feel like the Cher is like such a perfect icon to use for the setting of a musical because she has so many different like phases of her career and different moments and, you know, singing and movies and all of this stuff that you can pull from. And I like that it was sung live. And I also like the way that circling back immediately. Ew, why did I say circling back? This isn't fucking like corporate shit. Um, like going back to the fact that it's like the eras of Cher. I really like the way that these musicals are set up about the lifetimes of people because everybody has their own moment in the spotlight, their own different like section that they get to cover. So everybody gets an equal amount of time to really like showcase themselves and like, you know, that like the portion of life of that person. So it feels very fair in the structuring of it. This because it's usually inspired by like musicians and artists, the songs usually tend to be good, and sometimes they're sung live, which is super fun, like this musical. And also it just hits good. It really fits all my criteria so well. And the top performances in this musical, like Cameron's, Monet's, obviously Miss Crackers, they all are so good. They're just it's a great fucking musical. Alrighty, here at number 3, we also have another category of musicals that I've like kind of mentioned, but really can make for a great musical, and 2 of them are up here in the top 3. And those are musicals based off of existing musicals. And at number 3, we have Moulin Rouge. This musical was amazing because, you know, you're kind of doing the Moulin Rouge storyline and also, you know, bringing in the more like recent kind of Moulin Rouge, doing Lady Marmalade. Like, you're combining those things and, you know, having some cute little references throughout. Everybody gets their own little moment to shine in the musical. It's not as equally balanced, I would say, as some of the other ones here towards the top, but it is still pretty balanced. Everybody gets a moment. Anybody in any role could like feasibly win this musical. Any role could. And the songs, because it's based off of Moulin Rouge, really are great. They're just so fucking good. And everybody does an amazing job in this musical. Even like the people in the bottom don't do a bad job. Bosco and Georges don't do a bad job. They just like do fine. And because everybody does an amazing job here, that's like the reason that they're in the bottom too. But I mean, this musical really is so stellar. When this came out, everybody was like, "Oh my god, this musical is amazing," and it really is. It's so fucking good. It just hits all the right notes for me. Ooh, that's like a musical reference. How fun! Look at me go. So we're down to our top 2, and we each still have one example of the type of musical that I just mentioned. We still have yet to talk about the Madonna musical and about Wig Loose. In second place, we have Wig Loose. Wig Loose, oh my god. There is potentially some recency bias on this for me, even though it's actually not like that recent, because it's like, I mean, it happened in like April or March of last year, so that's like almost a year ago at this point. But this musical hits so well. It was really smart for them to do it at 6 people remaining, because that means that, you know, you can keep the cast small and you can keep the storyline succinct, and everybody has a sufficient amount of time to like showcase themselves. And everybody does an amazing job in this musical. Again, this is a very similar situation like with Moulin Rouge, where the bottom 2, Selena Estudis and Lucy LaDuca, both do a great job here. Like, I really have no complaints about their performances here. And basing it off of Footloose really, provides the structure and the storyline that's needed. And oh my god, Anitra's fucking role in this. Anitra's performance in this Rusical, I think, is my favorite individual performance in a US season's Rusical. Just like point blank period. I fucking love her performance. It gave me chills when I watched it live. I remember it giving me chills. Like, I just love it so much. It's so amazing. It really is everything a Rusical could and should be. But there is one more Rusical that I think is a bit more iconic, in my opinion, and I would say in the opinion of the general population. And I think the songs as a whole are better in the Rusical that I put in first place. And that Rusical is Madonna the Unauthorized Rusical. This Rusical just hits so hard on all levels. Everybody gets their own part and own section of Madonna's illustrious career to do with, and they all get a great song. All the songs are good here, and they all provide a platform for the contestants to really just show up and show out and try their best. Everybody gets a good fucking part. And then it's so fun to watch all of the good parts. And it really is so great formatting wise for the TV show. And everybody does a stellar job. Again, even the bottom two of the Rusical don't do a bad job. Everybody does at least fine. And it really is just so iconic. When people think of Rusicals, or at least when I think of a Rusical, I'm not going to speak for everybody, but when I think of a Rusical, I think of the Madonna Rusical first and foremost. That's what pops to mind. Also, the subject matter, Madonna is just a complete gay icon. She is so amazing. She's a great artist. And I don't know how to make this Rusical better. I also think that's a part of this. I feel like with every other Rusical, I could think of a way that the Rusical could have been made better. I don't know if there's a way to make the Madonna Rusical better. Just not specifically the Queen's performances in it, but literally just the songs, the concept, the choreo. I don't know how this concept and the way that it was presented could have been made better. So that is why it is at the top of my rankings. But tell me what you think of the Rusicals down in the comments below. US, international, I don't care. Let me know your feelings on this. Thank you all so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you want to as well. As always, I will leave my Twitter link down below if you want to go follow me on there. Again, thank you all so much for watching, and as always, take care. Bye-bye.